Hey guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. He's Chris Halleck over there, walking in that box outside the Steelers facility, heading to a place where he can communicate with us a little bit better. And we have much to discuss today, and it's all of an upbeat tone because that's how things happen after you win a game and everybody's feeling okay, and you want it to carry over from one week to the next. And today's topic is going to be pretty interested and driven by one of the two coordinators, maybe not the one that you thought we would be featuring today, because there's been a lot to discuss as it relates to the offense. Lots and lots and lots to discuss, actually. Arthur Smith and Teryl Austin both spoke, and Austin might have stolen the show, at least as we see it. And I find that to be completely fascinating. And we're going to bring in Chris here to share a little bit of his observations on that first. Hi, Chris.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, so I also, I was going in, and of course, the Arthur Smith press conference is going to get bombarded with all kinds of quarterback questions. And he answered them about as well as he can, because of course he can't answer, he can't give specifics on things, can't give which way they're leaning or anything. The coordinator's never going to answer that. It's all going to be the head coach anyway. So it comes down to what's your plan? He goes, well, I've dealt with this before, even last year. You have to deal with contingency plans. It's part of the job. That's why you have the call sheet built with certain plays your backup quarterback likes. You always have to be prepared. But yeah, Teryl Austin comes in, and I wanted to ask him about the differences we've seen, like the actual schematic changes. And I don't know exactly if I was looking for a specific answer, which is why it was a genuine question. So I wanted to see what his reason was for like what the catalyst is for why there have been these drastic changes.
And here that is.
TA, over the past 3 weeks, you guys have had a lot of, you've had a lot of games where you've had a lot of too high, then you've gone to single high, and you've gone back to too high. What's been the catalyst for constantly changing things up, and do you feel like that's giving you an advantage over these past 3 weeks as you guys are trending in the right direction?
Yeah, I think that being able to be flexible in what we do and how we stop people is important. If I'm an offensive coordinator and I say, hey, listen, I can book these guys for this every time, they'll be able to devise plays to get into the type of situations they want to get into. And then it just becomes my guy might be better than yours on this play. But I think if we can, and I can continue to mix it up and not give them something that they can just, okay, hey, this is what we have, that gives us an advantage, because I do, and I stand up here and I've said it before, I think we have good players. And so that allows them to play and not play at a disadvantage. And so I got to be, continue to try to do my best for our guys to get them in the best position so they can perform.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Now, that's one of those things, when you say it, you got to understand the other thing that you're saying, which is that you weren't necessarily doing this before. Everything was basically predicated on go ahead and make your plays. If you're Minka, go ahead and be Minka. You know what I mean? If you're TJ, go ahead and be TJ. If you're Cam, just go ahead and be Cam. But eventually there comes a point where the making of the plays, the execution isn't enough. And the comfort level with which these guys operate isn't the priority. What becomes most important is just, let's do whatever is necessary, gasp, to win this football game. And that actually probably, Chris, better explains the pattern we've seen to this bizarre season than anything else I've heard anybody say from within the Steelers organization. I really believe that, because otherwise we were just left scratching our heads. We mentioned just on yesterday's show that they seem to react a certain way as coaches when they had their backs against the wall. That was the terminology that I used. Well, this isn't backs against the wall. This is just let's be our best strategic selves in addition to being our best execution selves. Now, does this mean that they have found the Holy Grail and they're going to beat everybody that they're going to, that's good stuff. Really, really good stuff.
I think the most encouraging thing for me is knowing the bravado that they were speaking with about this whole coverage people thing and being able to man up with any team and like whenever
and the same three guys. Yep.
Yeah. Because whenever I remember having a specific conversation with one of the members of the coaching staff during training camp, and I won't give away who it is because it was not that kind of a conversation, but they specifically mentioned the Bengals as a team in which they could go up against and cover. Like, we got the guys, we can cover them. And then week 7 happens and you learn real quick, no, we can't. Now, you can sit there and you can be stubborn and you can continue. Oh, it was a one-off. We can continue to beat our chest and we continue to think my man's better than your man. But they didn't do that. They actually adjusted. They actually made changes. And now it's not as predicated on, hey, we've got TJ Watt and Jalen Ramsey and Cam Hayward and all these guys, and we're just going to beat you because we have better players than you do. No, now it's actually about let's actually do some things schematically to keep offenses on their heels. That's what you want to see from the coaching staff, and then allow your good players, as TA said, to be good players and execute the coverages and the plays that he's calling.
And then he says, and this is a fair question on his part, I think. He says, are the defensive changes forced on Teryl Austin to figure out, or are we seeing more of his desires for the defense showing through when the old way wasn't working anymore? This is the standard who's really running the defense question, but it's in a different dressing.
Well, the one thing that I will say about the whole who's running the defense thing, because it's not necessarily about who's running the defense. We've been through that before. Tomlin has to say, Austin has to say. Obviously, it's Tomlin's philosophy. Austin calls the plays. Tomlin can chime in whenever he wants, and he can say, hey, I want to run something on this down or on this particular play, whatever it is. It is give and take between the two. It just always has been. That's the way it's going to be. But the one thing, and I reported this on our app a couple weeks ago, Joey Porter Jr. talked about how Teryl Austin has been significantly more open to player feedback in terms of what's working, what's not working. That's also a huge breath of fresh air, because it could continue to be the whole, Matt Canada story where, no, I'm going to go off into my office and I'm going to lock myself in there, or I'm going to figure out the game plan because I'm smart enough to do that. Or you can see say, listen, what we're doing is not working. You guys are the ones out there. What do you think will work? And then we can try to figure out the answer together. So that is another part of this, that when you put it all together, I think you're seeing a reason why we're seeing the defense perform at a much, much more consistent level, as well as when you add things like Jalen Ramsey switching to safety, he's staying there. There's more stability on the back end. There's a lot of factors that go into this, but mosquito, that's a big one. Just TA admitting what he said today is another breath of fresh air for this defense.
That's because you're in a van down by the river.
I am outside of. There is a van over here, and I am down by the river, the Mon, actually. So
I know that's why I was making the observation. There's a lot more that we're going to be touching on today. We're going to do that right after this here small break. I hope everyone will stick through.
For those of you who are doing real work in construction, in a warehouse, if you're a mechanic, you want reliable, comfortable gear to help you perform well on the job. Brunt Workwear's got you. They've got waterproof boots, safety toe, soft toe, pull-on, lace-up, whatever you need. You can wear them to work, and if they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know of any other brand doing that. Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off. Just head to bruntworkwear.com. DKPittsburghSports.com. Use the code DK Sports and you're good to go. After you order, they'll ask you where you heard about Brunt. Do us a favor here at DK Pittsburgh Sports and tell them it was from this show.
There's something to be said for the Steelers scheming things up, moving things around, keeping everybody on edge a little bit. And there's also, and you know, Chris, I know you've heard this too from a lot of the same people I've heard it from the defensive players. They also just want to play, and they also just want it simplified. Okay, and you're laughing because I know we're talking about the same people that are telling us this stuff. And there has to be some kind of balance between the two, doesn't there? You know, because if you're telling the guys who are just natural, chase the ball all over the place type of players, if you're telling them, well, hang on a second, we want to move you here. So I have a feeling that when Teryl Austin is saying these things I have a feeling he's talking more about the secondary than he is about other parts of the defense, isn't he?
Yeah, because, and again, when we talk about and talking about the defensive stability and when things got figured out, it all seems to kind of align with whenever Jalen Ramsey went back to safety when they made the switch. Now, obviously, they did that mainly because of the attrition that they suffered at the position. But TA was asked today about this, and he talked about how even though Jalen Ramsey is capable of playing corner and of playing in the slot and playing safety, and he can play all those things, and he can bounce back and forth between all three, and he can still perform at a high level at all three, it's not as easy for everybody else when he's doing that. And so Jalen Ramsey staying in one position has helped everybody else kind of stay in the same spot. And they're all kind of just continuing to play. There's not as much juggling around, and that's helped. So it does seem to be like that whenever TA is talking about the changes that have been happening and the fixes that have been happening, it definitely keeps going back to the secondary and then, Mike Tomlin says the same thing when he's talking about when things have stabilized, it's because of our safety play. And when you look at the safety play, it's been the same two guys now. So yeah, I don't think that's an accident.
I'm going to take some of your questions here today. Ideally, sticking with the defense, what happens to Jalen Ramsey whenever Deshaun Elliott comes back?
Well, if you have our app and you don't, you should get it. I reported in a Friday Insider a couple of weeks ago, which is one of our weekly features that we have, in which not just me, but DK will do it. Other members of the staff will do it. I reported in a Friday Insider a couple weeks ago that this might not be something the Steelers have to deal with at all, because even though doctors have not declared Deshaun Elliott out for the season, there's not a lot of optimism that he's going to be back.
The
earliest it's going to be is most likely playoffs.
There's a lot of questions about what happens when I noticed that today. Deshaun Elliott comes back.
I got it multiple times in our live queues on our app today.
I don't know why there's an impression that he will be back. I mean, you guys saw what happened to him.
Yeah.
I don't want to conjure up the visions again here, but this isn't one of those, hey, I'm back, everybody. That's no. Yeah. I think it would be a very pleasant surprise if he returns.
Yeah,
I'm not sitting here playing doctor, but I never thought in a zillion years Cole Holcomb would be back. So
right. Well, and knowing Deshaun and how hard he works and and the drive that he would have to want to come back, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Deshaun. But at the same time, you look at the injury, and again, speaking with the people that I spoke with, I'm not going to deny that just because he's not technically been ruled out for the season, there's not, just say the best way I can put it, there is not a lot of optimism that Deshaun Elliott's going to be back this week. Like I said, if they make it to the playoffs, win the wild card round, and they're in the divisional round, all right, maybe by that point Deshaun's already back he's doing the whole 21-day window, and they're trying to get him back. Maybe he can come back at that point, maybe, but that is still not a guarantee. Don't expect Elliott to be back this year.
Yeah, he's
great.
And if he is, you could see him as just being extraordinary depth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you're not going to take Duggar out of a position where he's excelling the way he is in midstream. You see what I'm saying? I don't think it's one of those. You have to don't lose your job because of an injury, because now you'd be talking about your ultimate crunch time games. You'd be talking about Baltimore at the end of the year. You'd be talking about your first round playoff game, whatever it happens to be. You just gotta go with what you got. You go back to 2023. That's the way it was, even for Mike Tomlin as it related to Mason Rudolph. And you thought, not a million years is he ever going to stick with Rudolph. Rudolph left him no choice.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Left him no choice. Steeler Mama says, I sure hope to see more of Mount Washington this Sunday. I don't know why he's not used more, especially in the red zone. I'll tell you this. It's not as cut and dried as, that they don't trust him or anything like that. There were things that Darnell has had to do. And the first person to tell you this is Darnell, who amazingly through all of this has remained humble. This is a big man who can go through life getting literally everything he wants. Every establishment that he walks in, he just, he's that guy. And he keeps the ego small. He's constantly trying to learn. He's constantly trying to get better. So if you see him out there on the field and he's doing the whole way down, or if they're bracing for him to do one of those purrs and he instead hurdles them, you might think to yourself, this is a really bad dude. This guy. Darnell. No, he's not that. He wants to get better. He does not see himself as a completed product in any capacity. To me, this has been about Darnell wanting to continuously evolve. If he was in it for the money, we've brought this up before, he could just play tackle and make himself, 30 a year, 20, 30? Easy. You just gave Dan Moore 20 in Nashville, okay? He could do that. If he was motivated by, I don't know, just positional consistency, he could say, listen, I'm just going to be this guy. And if you guys throw to me once or twice a game, I'm good. No, he just keeps working to get better. Does he not, Chris?
He does, but I don't know why this continues to be a misconception, because we've been talking about this for a while on Darnell consistently out snapping Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. And so I actually got this same question on our app today in my live queues with our subscribers. Uh-oh. Are you still there?
Yeah. Okay.
You went away for a second. I wanted to make sure it wasn't me. But I got this question, and literally, Darnell Washington, okay, snap distribution right now. Jonnu Smith has played 344 snaps. Darnell has played 341 snaps.
Yeah.
For the season.
I mean, people just want more. I don't think there's anything hard to figure out here.
But I understand that. But at the same time, those snaps are not always going to look the same as Jonnu Smith, because Darnell is also going to be asked to block a whole bunch on a good number of those snaps, because, well, he's an offensive lineman who can play tackle or who can play tight end. I mean, he literally, if you're not using the advantage that you have of him as a blocker, then you're not using him correctly. Now, could he get more targets? Sure, he can get more targets. And I think that's definitely something that as it continues to play, he can earn more, but he's been used plenty.
He's been used. You're referring to snap counts. And I think most people that at least that I've heard from, and I know my own stance on this, is target him more. He's already going out for the pass. He's not going to expend extra energy. Well, I guess he might after the catch, but use him as that weapon. Just a little bit. This is a question that Chris had today for Darnell.
What's the season like been? What's the season been like for you? Not just having the plays that are getting people talking, but also becoming more and more of a prominent player in the offense.
Season to me, it's been cool, man. Even when it's not the highlights, the hurdles, or the run over, it's still lots of learning to do. Just lots of things to work on, just the details and things like that. But it's been fun, definitely working with these guys in this locker room. So.
Even when it's not the highlights and the hurdles and the runovers, I'll even settle for the scraps of the season that I'm having so far. I love that.
Yeah. He had a lot of fun today. What I can also add, just to peel the curtain back just a little bit, I can't give details, but after practice, we, like reporters like myself, and I'm not going to speak for other people, but have been trying to talk with Darnell like all week, yesterday, today.
He wasn't available after the game. I couldn't find him.
Right.
He's not hard to miss.
No.
I mean, he is hard to miss is what I'm saying.
Well, he was cornered today. It was literally like they always allow the media to go in at a certain time. Well, we just happened to be walking right behind Darnell as he's going into the locker room, and he goes to his locker, and this crowd of reporters just comes over, and Pat Fryermuth is standing over to the side, and he goes, "Oh, you got to speak with the media today. You got to speak with the media today, Darnell." And there's a whole bunch of fun going on, and the other teammates, they were cracking jokes. It was a lot of fun today. It was the whole session was fun.
I have long taken a lot of pride, and this is more in training camp settings or preseason settings than anywhere else, in being able to identify by seeing a player. If I've never seen a player before in my life, come into the locker room by body type, by size, by frame, shoulders, and so forth, and say what position they are. What do you say when Darnell walks into the room? He's not any of the above. He's certainly not built like a tight end, and for that matter, he's not really built like a left tackle either. And yet you see, and he's overwhelming. Even someone like, remember when the first time we laid eyes on DK Metcalf, it was at OTAs, and we saw him, and we were just like, "That's insane that's a wide receiver. That's just crazy." Darnell takes that times 5, regardless of whatever position you put him in, because humans just aren't that big, and not to mention, he's carrying around, I reported to everybody that he acknowledged to me that he was over 300 pounds. This was back in the down in Jacksonville, I believe, the preseason game. And he reluctantly told me that. This week he went on a podcast and just said flat out he's at 311. Tight end hurdles, and there's not, when you see Darnell like today, you're looking at him, he's got a t-shirt on and whatever else here. He's not carrying around anything extra, man.
No,
he's just not.
It's actually really, really cool to see, because when you see him in person, yes, he's like a massive, massive human being, and it's not like the most surprising thing that he's over 300 pounds. But then again, at the same time, you're almost like, if you were to lose it, like, where would you lose it from? Like, oh, that's funny. Darnell's position is Godzilla.
That's very good. I'm sorry.
By the way, so if you want to know what a 6'6" or 6'7", 260-pound person looks like, what's actually kind of funny? Because I actually had this joke with one of the Steelers coaching staff members during training camp. Paul Skeens, pitcher for the Pirates, Cy Young winner, is 6'6", 260. He is built like an NFL tight end. And it's funny because, like, he is larger than Jonnu Smith. And I remember bringing that up with one of the coaches. And, like, he's like, yeah, well, Jonnu's also a baby, too. So
he is. Skeens has that frame. At the same time, when you see Skeens, and I know you've talked to him as well, Chris, you did it at the All-Star game for us.
Both of them, yeah.
Each of his All-Star appearances, Chris covered for us. I see him all the time, obviously. And with Paul, what you see is he's got more of a quarterback's posture, and I'm not just saying that because he does it, and people know this now. It's famous. He does the warm-ups with the football. He and Jared Jones or other players on the Pirates will throw with him football. It's actually part of his pitching regimen. He believes it's something that that helps keep his arms strong. And anytime you're doing something that's a little bit different, you're using muscles that you don't use for pitching, which helps fortify your arm and so forth. But I always saw Paul as being built like a quarterback more than anything else. But your point stands, especially as it's relative to Darnell, which is Darnell doesn't make any sense. I just think, Chris, there's more targets to be had, and a lot of people are bringing this up. They feel like they have to discard Jonnu Smith in order to get more targets for Darnell. That's actually not necessarily true. Those plays are in there. The 3 tight end formations are in there. The one thing that probably jumps out, I saw Matt Williamson from our place put out something that what are you laughing about over there? I couldn't remember what we were called. Oh no, the cackle has arrived.
The Matt Williamson from where I work,
She doesn't know we're live. Matt Williamson had a thing that said how Darnell's lowest usage in snaps has come in the 2 tight end set. So you're thinking right away, well, just throw Jonnu out and everything will just be fine. Pump the brakes here a little bit. Jonnu Smith had 88 catches last year in Miami. Jonnu's a player. Jonnu's already done some good things for this offense. The thing that's probably jumped out at people is that he's had a couple of unfortunate, he had that one early drop and so forth. But here, I'm not ready to throw Jonnu Smith out of this. Are you, Chris?
No, but I do wonder. Not this season, obviously, but I do wonder going forward because, Darnell is going to be under contract. Jonnu's under contract. Pat Fryermuth's under contract. And when you consider what Pat Fryermuth and Jonnu Smith are both going to be making, I just don't know how you can allocate the dollars that you're allocating to players that are not going to be playing enough snaps to earn the reason to be paying those dollars. And so my early guess, educated guess, is that that's not going to happen again next year. But we don't have to talk about next year.
Yeah.
But no, when it comes to, listen, I understand, there was talk about wanting to trade, from fans wanting to trade Pat Fryermuth before the deadline. And I'm like, listen, with the way this offense is built right now, your strength on offense is at tight end. And taking away from that strength would just not be smart. I mean, you want to have a WR2, but you don't. So tight end is where it's at right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into any of that here. The question here is, would you rather have Jonnu or Pat next year? It's not a question. One of them signed and one of them isn't.
I think Jonnu's under contract next year.
Oh, he is for next year? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Then you keep all of them. I don't know that you'd have to mess with it too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I
think the only thing that could possibly throw a monkey wrench is if they were to get another receiver, whether it be the draft or free agency, whatever it is. If they were to finally address WR2, then
you still need a third tight end in this offense. And with this coordinator, you still need a third tight end. So if Jonnu can be a third tight end and he's already under contract, I don't know. I just, Avery asks here, what's Jonnu's depth of target? Nobody on this team other than DK Metcalf has a decent depth of target figure. I know that. I just happened to run across that. Obviously, didn't commit it to memory. But I happen to be checking that for another reason on these guys. And Metcalf has a really nice depth of target, and absolutely nobody else does. So you don't have to wonder about that. Fryermuth doesn't. Washington doesn't. Nobody does. Nobody does. The team's issues, for better or worse, when it comes to the offense, has been of late, at least for a month now. And again, I say for better and worse, has been quarterback, and to an extent, the offensive line and or the impact that quarterback has on the offensive line. But I digress before we start getting into that again. Here, Stoosh says that he's got 163 yards on 26 catches. I mean, he was the main guy in Miami last year. There's a difference when you're getting targeted a crazy amount of times, and he was. That's what's going to happen here. Robert wants to know what's happened to Cal. Cal ended up with pretty much half of the snaps that Roman Wilson got. So maybe the question is the one that we'd been asking back when he wasn't playing all the time: is what's happening with Roman? Is there a real belief that's developing in him? Is there a trust? Roman was the one who got Mason Rudolph his first significant completion that kind of got him going. And Roman did that. I don't want to overstate this either, because you're supposed to be able to run your routes correctly. But Roman ran a route that you haven't seen much from the Steelers when Aaron Rodgers is at quarterback. And I would imagine that that's a route that they don't see a whole heck of a lot in any setting. And he ran it. I've seen an ISO on him where he just makes it out to his exact spot. And they made that play, Chris, look so easy between him and Rudolph. And, of course, the line and its role. And as Mason pointed out to me the other day, it's DK Metcalf took. Yeah, I know you're nodding over there.
I was waiting for the DK Metcalf factor because that was the biggest factor.
Mason asked, was it 3 or 4 guys that he took downfield? And I thought it was 3. And then watching the video, you could argue that it's 4. So, yeah, Roman was open because the entire Cincinnati secondary followed 4 down the sideline.
Yeah, listen, there's been a lot of talk about the whole. Okay, so let's start with Calvin. Calvin, I think Calvin is what Calvin is. I don't think we've seen much of an improvement from last year or a decline from last year. He's really fast. He's a decent route runner. There are going to be times in which he makes a defender look silly, but there are also going to be times in which, just because of his size, he's going to be limited. He just is. But with Roman Wilson, there's a little bit more size there. He's also very, very fast. I would even argue he has better hands than Calvin.
Boy, we weren't saying that. We weren't saying that until recently. The one thing that Cal cannot afford to do, and this is the reason that I think that Cal has taken all of this so hard, and he can't drop the ball.
And 2 bad drops against the Chargers. Bad.
Well, the one was the worst because he just basically handed away an interception.
To a former Steeler, nonetheless.
that can't happen. That is a, and we have seen, and the Steelers coaches have seen, and the Steelers quarterbacks, plural, have seen Roman's hands. That was something that you and I remember standing in the end zone the one day in Latrobe. We were talking about it a lot. Let's just watch his hands on these drills. Watch what he does. That's what we were looking at. And his hands come through. His hands don't let him down. That's a heck of a trait for a wide receiver, being able to receive.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's in the name, wide receiver. Listen, and there's already some disagreement. No, Roman doesn't have better hands. This is not just my opinion. I've literally talked with multiple coaches about this and a couple of scouts when Roman was coming out of college. His hands are praised for being he has good hands.
He can catch.
So he can catch. He absolutely can catch. And Calvin has dropped one too many passes. I'm not even talking about just this year. It's not been like Deontay drops and the whole thing that went on with him. It's not been to that level where he's dropped a ton of passes. But Roman is a little bit more sure-handed. Roman's also still very, very fast. Roman just needs to understand the art of route. If Roman can ever get the art of route running down, Roman is a legitimate WR2. I mean, I would actually put that out there. We're talking make Roman Wilson the type of route runner that Deontay Johnson was. And Roman Wilson is a better catching version of Deontay Johnson. I mean, that's what you would be getting. But he's a very, very raw route runner. He wasn't asked to run a big route tree in Michigan. He was asked to only play out of the slot. There's a lot of room for growth there, and it's going to take time.
We're going to take 2 more questions today. This one comes from Mary Jane, who asks, how is Caleb Johnson looking at practices. That's not something that we can report on. Mary Jane, we can talk about his general progression, since your next question is he progressing? Is it game impact time? I'll tell you the first thing that I think about as it relates to Caleb right now, and I kind of like this. Regardless of the game situation, regardless of the score, you're still seeing the coaching staff say, hang on, let's do one of these with Caleb. Now, I did not like it happening in the shadow of the goalpost. I didn't think that one made much sense. But we saw Caleb get back out there Sunday against the Bengals. They're not burying the kid. They're allowing for, I think, and I haven't actually asked anybody, including Arthur, about this. But with Caleb, you want to allow for him to bust one. Okay, you want him to hit one for 10 or 15 or something where he can, ooh, there I am. I'm feeling this now. I can do this. And then from there, hope that it snowballs into something where you have yourself an additional threat. You have yourself three. If you don't ever play him, if you never put him on the field, it obviously can't happen. So I will applaud the Steelers for sticking by the young man to this extent, even if there are times where you look at it and go, ugh, it didn't really work. And then actually that was kind of what happened against the Bengals. There was one run that was kind of decent, and there was another one where you went, oh, dude, there's all this room to the left, which is easy for us, by the way, in the press box. We're not out there running and looking at the holes at field level.
Well, and then he did have the one run that looked like it was okay. That's the run that's going to get him going, and then he gets called for grabbing the face mask. I mean, you can stiff arm the face mask.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
you can stiff arm the face mask.
He yanked the guy across.
He yanked and pulled it down, and can't do that. But I mean, listen, if he throws that stiff arm, gets the defender off, and he hits that edge, and he takes off, maybe that's what gets him going. Maybe it just takes that one run. To be like, oh, that's it. That's going to – because that kind of happened in Minnesota. First couple runs weren't that great. Or not in Minnesota, but in Dublin against the Vikings. Yeah. First couple runs weren't that great, but then he has that one that went for like 8 or 9. Nice little cut, made it upfield. And then after that, it was like, oh, he looks a lot more comfortable out there. And he did, for the few, other carries that he got. But I do think that it's going to take some time with him. But I do feel the confidence is slowly building. And it's not just his own confidence, but the team's confidence and the coaching staff's confidence in him.
The last question we're taking for today comes from Jonathan Sokol, who says, does it seem that the coaching staff is making a more concerted effort this year to make sure to develop and play the rookies and the second-year players? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. When you look at, excuse me, when you look at the usage of not necessarily even the main guys that we're talking about here, it could put Derek Harmon on a separate track. The first round pick, he's out there. But when you look at the usage of Caleb Johnson, look at Y.A. Black is another one. Y.A. has been right around the 14, 15 snap mark consistently. I thought he was terrific this past week against the Bengals. I thought he made a difference. I have no idea what the grading and the stuff like that ended up being. But I think you're seeing these guys, and you would have seen, for example, a Dante Kent. You would have seen other guys. Jack Sawyer's out there. Okay, and that's not because he's a rookie.
No, TA praised him today with the development he's had today. So no, there's definitely an effort there. And then second-year players, I mean, Mike Tomlin always has a very, very high bar for second-year players. You've got to perform. So yeah.
No, and they've done that, and they've done that in their various ways. And we can't forget about Carson Bruner, who has been a really nice addition to special teams and was intended to be exactly that. That wasn't one of those like, well, he stinks at this, so let's put him on special teams. He was supposed to be this as a late rounder, and he's done that. So you've seen the rookies getting involved. Now, is that if you're the reason that you didn't say this, but if there's a reason that you asked the question that, well, are they secretly, quietly doing the rebuild? I don't know. It might just be a different organizational approach under Omar, where it's not just about winning that Sunday's game.
Yeah,
And
no, listen. I think when you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and your goal is to try to win a Super Bowl pretty much every year, it doesn't mean you go all in and you do the Rams thing and you trade away all your future first round picks and everything like that so you can get everything and try to win. It's all about competing in the year that you're in, but then also making sure you have the assets and you're building assets for the future, and you're also moving forward and you're developing the players that you are drafting. Listen, Omar watched Kevin Colbert build 2 Super Bowl teams and a third team that went to a Super Bowl and lost through the draft. That is how it's built. It is built through the draft. That does not change. As much as we like to think, and we've seen more and more and more of NFL free agency become a cool thing and grab more headlines. You're seeing these big contracts. It's still a cap league. It's still a cap league. You're not going to be able to go out and LA Dodgers this thing and go buy a whole bunch of players to win a championship. You just can't. You've got to be able to
Dodgers
draft and
didn't do
develop.
that. They're just a scrappy bunch. I still get so much nastiness from over there. For all this is about my salary cap system stuff. Man, those are some persistent people. There's nothing worse than taking a leak all over somebody's celebration, Nothing worse. Nothing worse. Guys, we're going to Carrie wants a triple shot of Steelers. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We are going to be doing a double shot of Penguins very soon, though. And hope you enjoy that. The Penguins obviously are a pretty intriguing team unto themselves, having themselves maybe the surprise performance of the year so far in the NHL through a quarter of the season. I'm really, really looking forward to doing that. I've wanted to do that all along. I really have. Anybody who knows me knows how much or how strongly I feel about the sport of ice hockey. You guys, go get the app. This is number one. Chris isn't standing over there in that lot freezing for nothing or getting bitten by mosquitoes.
They've been huge, like huge,
like flying dogs.
They're drinking they're drinking the water from the Mon and just growing.
Yeah, Jacob asks about a double shot of Pirates. No,
but I will let you know that there will be a podcast coming soon that will be talking Pirates. Stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
If you got our app, you'll find out more about it.
Yes. Yeah. Go get the app. DK Pittsburgh Sports is the name of the app. You just do a search on your Apple App Store or your Google Play on Android. Bring it in for free. And then from there, just email me, dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. I have a bunch of them today. I'm going to get to them. I swear. And this one comes in from Jim Montoro. This is just to give you a small example of the kind of stuff that people send. Jim says, first off, I'm thankful for you and your site providing Pittsburghers and ex-Pittsburghers on all the info that we need on the Steelers, the Penguins, and that other team. His words, not mine. A friend of mine gifted me a subscription years ago, and I've renewed ever since. He says, I think it's great so he's actually already in. I think it's great that new subscribers get a massive discount. That's good stuff from Jim. We appreciate that. You guys just come on in. Come on in. We're all good. What's perpetual? Oh yeah, the discount isn't. She's making a good point here. Even as she's at the register, dinging up a that's like multitasking over there. We don't rip you off after this. We don't give you a discount at the beginning and then next year, whatever. This price sticks. The discount price. We're not trying to out clever anybody here. DK@dkpittsburghsports.com is the place to do this. Chris, one more of these tomorrow, and then we're off to Chicago.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. See you then. Tomorrow, I mean. Bye.